This segment of the news is brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. Dr. Ciro Ugarte, Director of Health Emergencies at the Pan American Health Organization, calls upon countries to strengthen their healthcare system during a virtual press briefing on COVID-19. Dr. Ugarte spoke of how the lack of human resources is affecting the medical response to the ongoing pandemic.
With a sharp increase of number of cases, particularly on critical care, those medical doctors, nurses, technicians, and others were not available. And so the countries had to increase their capacity for critical care, and several of those countries filled their gaps in different ways. For example, relocating staff from other services with task shifting, taking executive steps to hire additional staff. Also, they accelerated the graduation of senior residencies and health careers, for example, temporary contracting of health workers, and even given license to foreign medical doctors.
Dr. Ugarte wished to highlight that the regions of the Americas have reported 52% of new deaths on the entire world, and this is reason alone for countries to continue to expand their healthcare systems. He stated that this lack of human resources has resulted in the delay or even suspension of other services.
We are talking about COVID-19, but we need to talk about many other factors. So it is a huge challenge for non-COVID patients to reach the hospitals and to receive proper care. And this is also a call to strengthen the health systems and health services, particularly at the level of primary health care, but also to ensure that the investment in health services is strong.
Dr. Ugarte contends that this investment into healthcare will assist all countries in the future. The government preparing to present a plan very soon to remove domestic and international quarantine related to travel. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says this much. However, he says that the second wave of the virus is not over and it's likely that a third wave can occur. Dr. Minnis says the government remains committed to the reopening of the economy in the area of tourism by mid-October with the protocols necessary that must be put in place.
Tourism officials, Mr. Speaker, in the public and private sectors have been working very hard over many months to devise plans for a phased reopening. It is unfortunate, unduly harsh, and unfair to criticize the staff of the Ministry of Tourism for having no plans. This, Mr. Speaker, is disingenuous, untrue, unhelpful, and unfortunate.
The Prime Minister added that it's deeply disappointing when unfounded and unfair criticism is launched on those trying to reopen tourism.
No one should be under any illusion as to how long and how difficult it will be to restore our economy generally and tourism specifically. Recovery, stronger together, is going to take a long time. But I assure the Bahamian people that we are preparing the groundwork for recovery.
Dr. Minnis says tourism officials in the public and private sectors will provide an update soon and says any advice or constructive criticism for the Ministry of Tourism and Aviation and other stakeholders involved in creating plans for the reopening of the economy would be welcome. As the country is still attempting to bounce back from the effects of COVID-19, National Security Minister Marvin Dame says his ministry is extremely important, and so is the health of officers and recruits. Now, health officials identified members of the armed forces as super spreaders of the virus within the community. Earlier today at HMBS Coral Harbor Base, the minister told reporters that between both the Royal Bahamas Police and Defense Forces, there are a little over 100 cases.
The health of the officers and recruits are extremely important. And we're not going to bring recruits in an environment if we're not certain that we can ensure their safety and ensure that they can remain healtly. And we continue, as you know, we have recruits in now, and they've been on lockdown here with the RBDF, so as well as the corrections. And so we take these things very seriously. Health first, everything else secondary.
He says, despite the pandemic, the work of the armed forces must continue. Back in March, the minister noted that there will be increases in manpower, especially with the military arm.
And when you look at the numbers throughout all of these agencies, comparatively speaking, you compare them with frontline agencies anywhere the world over, and those numbers are low. Those numbers are low. And also taking in mind, too, that when you look at the Defense Force or the Police Force, these are large government agencies in the Bahamas. All right? And they're a microcosm of our wider community. Many of these officers have to return home in their communities.
Now, the minister adds that he and leaders of the armed forces have daily dialogue to ensure that they stay on top of the health of officers and recruits.
Yeah, like I said, national security is important. We're not going to discontinue anything. There is a squad in now, and Commodore Kingdos will, as the economy allows, we'll be looking at how we can factor in another squad. Maybe the size may be different until we can get out of this financial bind that we're in now due to COVID.
Mr. Dames adds that COVID-19 has impacted everyone and has shifted the priorities of many, but they're not losing focus or taking away from concession planning with the armed forces. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.